What if I told you that being honest with yourself was one of, if not the most important factors for effective communication? By the end of this video, I'm going to explain to you why being honest with yourself, so that you can in turn be honest with others, is one of the most important factors for effective communication. I help my clients figure out how to stop having the same communication problems over and over again. And I've spent the last decade or so of my career figuring out how to delicately but successfully say hard things. So, are you honest with yourself? I think this is one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves when it comes to effective communication, because if we're not honest with ourselves about our wants, our needs, our desires, or things that we would like to see changed, how can we hope to then successfully communicate what those things are to other people? So there are going to be two parts to this video. The first part is going to be about being honest with yourself, and the second part is going to be about being honest with other people when you communicate with them. So here's part one, being honest with yourself. Can you articulate what your wants and needs are? Can you articulate what your desires are? Do you know if there are things in your life that you would like to change or that you would like to see changed? All of these are questions that we need to ask ourselves in order to determine if we're actually being honest with ourselves about our wants, our needs, our desires, things we don't like, things that we would like to see changed, the whole realm of essentially everything that is happening in your life. Are you being honest with yourself about those things? And as I invite you to ask yourself these questions, I also then invite you to write down your answers, either like freehand in an actual journal or in your notes app, or maybe if you don't like writing, then you can voice note yourself and save your answers to those questions so that you can refer back to them later. But in whatever medium you choose to do so, I would invite you to actually write down your answers to what are my wants and needs? What are my desires? What are some things that I would like to see changed? What are some things that I really, really like and would like to reinforce, right? This isn't just a negative, I don't like this, I don't like that, I want to see that changed. It is a positive, I like this, I like that, I want more of this, or maybe I don't have this yet, but I want some of it in my life. Whatever it is, I want you to write down what your wants, your needs, your desires are, or things that you would like to see changed or improved. And the reason I'm asking you to write them down is because once you've done that, either like written them or voice noted them, or maybe you just file them away in your head. But I think having them on some sort of external place that you can refer to is really important, because the next thing that I'm going to invite you to do is to look at your answers to those questions. What are my wants? What are my needs? What are my desires? What are things that I would like to see changed or improved? And then I want you to ask yourself if those are actually your answers to those questions, or if those answers are things that you think you should want, or that you should desire, or that you should want to see changed. I want you to interrogate for yourself if you're being honest with yourself about your answers to those questions. Basically, are you lying to yourself about your wants and needs and desires, or are you being honest with yourself about them? This isn't a question that I'm saying you have to provide an answer to for other people, but I want you to ask yourself that question, and then I want you to be honest with yourself about your answer. And if your answer includes, well, maybe I wasn't being completely honest about my wants and needs and desires, that's okay. But I invite you to then examine where you weren't being completely honest with yourself, and then work on being completely honest with yourself about the answers to those questions. Some examples of these questions might include, do you want to get married and have children? Maybe you absolutely want to get married. Maybe you absolutely want to have kids. Or maybe you really don't want to get married, or maybe you really don't want kids, or perhaps maybe you want to get married but don't want kids, or you do want kids but don't want to get married. There's so many iterations and permutations of answers to that question, but I just invite you to be honest with yourself about what you actually want in terms of the answer to that question. Another facet of this could be, do you want to stay in your hometown, or do you want to travel? Are you a homebody, or do you like to go out? What are some things that you enjoy doing in your spare time? Do you like to read? Do you like to watch TV? Do you like to go on hikes? Do you like to quilt or crochet? Whatever the case may be, please, please, please be honest with yourself about the things that you want, that you need, that you desire, and the things that you would like to change or to improve in your life. Now, as I'm inviting you to do this, I recognize that there are some things that we just have to do in life. I have to pay my bills so that I will have electricity, so that I will have water, so that I will have a roof over my head. These are things that I have to do in order to exist in life the way that I would like to exist. So yes, there are things that we have to do. But I'm just inviting you to ask yourself if you have certain ideas in your mind about things that you have to do where you don't actually have to do that thing. Maybe it's expected of you. Maybe somebody in your life has raised you to think that you should want something, or that you should want to do that thing, that you should want to go to college instead of a trade school, that you should want to get married instead of not, that you should want to have kids, but maybe you don't. I'm just inviting you to actually interrogate for yourself what your answers are to some questions that maybe you haven't actually affirmatively asked yourself before, and see what those answers are. Are you being honest with yourself about your wants and your needs and your desires? The answers to these questions are crucial for you in your life, and they're also crucial as we work to navigate relationships and communicate with other people in our lives. I think it's really, really important that everybody get clear independently on what some of the answers to those questions are for themselves, so that you can then, and then this is part two, successfully communicate your answers to other people. Now, this is not to say that you can't change your mind when it comes to these answers. Nobody is static. Everybody changes. Everybody grows. There are different iterations of ourselves that occur as we move through life. So your answers to these questions can change. I'm not saying that they can't. What I'm inviting you to do is to ask yourself what the answers to these questions are right now, so that you can figure out and so that you can know what those answers are for yourself. That way, if you know what those answers are yourself, you can then successfully convey those answers to other people. This is really important when it comes to questions that pertain to relationships, because if we think about, okay, do I want a serious relationship, or am I okay with a situationship or some variant of not serious because I am focused on school or focused on my career, or because I have a lot of really heavy stuff in my family of origin happening right now? We need to figure out the answer to that question ourselves, so that then we can successfully convey it to someone else. If we look at another potential question, do you want kids? As you're dating and as you're moving through life, this is a really, really big question that people need to figure out the answer to for themselves. If I don't want kids and you do want kids, then a serious long-term relationship is not going to work out, because that is a very different answer that we have to that question. Or if we both want kids, but maybe we have fertility issues, are we both open to adoption? Are we both open to IVF? Are we both open to different ways that we could try to start a family? The answers to these questions are incredibly important, and we need to figure out what our own answers to them are, so that we can then successfully convey them to the other people in our lives. If we do want to get married, do we think that prenuptial agreements are an important thing to have? Do we want one? And for the record, I don't think a prenuptial agreement is necessarily a bad thing at all. And other creators have talked about this too, but if you don't create a prenuptial agreement yourself, then the state will have one for you. And that can be a whole nother video that I get into, how to actually ask your partner for a prenup, how to open that discussion, how to talk about that. I think that's a really important discussion that people should have. But for yourself, it's important for you to figure out, do I want a prenup? Do I not want a prenup? How important is a prenup to me? Let me ask myself these questions so that I can then have a thoughtful conversation with my partner about the possibility of a prenup, or the fact that I might want a prenup. As we talk about relationships, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of relationship do we want? Do we want to have a monogamous relationship? Do we want to have a relationship where we can be open? Do we want to have a polyamorous relationship? These are really, really important questions to ask as we embark on doing relationships with other people. And these are important questions for us to know the answers to ourselves so that we can then, what I've been saying multiple times, successfully convey those answers to the other people in our lives. Once you do get married, how involved do you want your in-laws and your extended family to be in helping you raise your children if you choose to have children? This is an important question, especially because the answer can vary greatly depending on the culture that somebody was raised in or the culture that their family comes from. It's an incredibly important question that I think is really important to ask yourself as you embark on having kids with your partner, having kids with your spouse. Do you want to move to be closer to your in-laws once you do have kids? Are you already living really close to your in-laws and you want them to be very, very involved in helping you raise your kids? These are all really, really important questions that, again, I invite you to ask yourself so that you can then have honest, open communication with your partner or the people in your life regarding the answers. So again, being honest with yourself and asking yourself, what are your wants, your needs, your desires? Having the answers to those questions can only help you successfully communicate what those answers are to other people in your lives. Another facet of being honest with yourself that I think is really important to investigate, especially as it pertains to effective communication with other people, is, are you being honest with yourself about your actions and the things that you have said? What do I mean by this? We all make mistakes, right? Sometimes we say things that we wish we hadn't said. Sometimes we do things that we wish we hadn't done and we regret doing them. Sometimes we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We are human. It is part of life. It is part of growth. We're going to do things that we don't like sometimes, and sometimes we are going to fuck up. And that is okay. But the thing that we need to do after that is we need to be honest with ourselves about the fact that, oh, I messed up, right? I wish I hadn't said that thing. Or I made a mistake. I did that thing and it was not correct. It was not right. It was not what I, in my heart of hearts, wanted to do in that moment. But maybe I got triggered. Maybe I had a reaction and I said or did something that I wish I hadn't said or did. It is really important to then be honest with ourselves about that fact that maybe you wish you hadn't said that thing. Maybe you wish you hadn't done that. Take ownership of that. Be honest with yourself about that so that you can then in turn genuinely apologize to whoever is in your life about the thing that you did or said that you wish you hadn't done. Or take responsibility, take accountability, take ownership over that thing you said or did that you wish you hadn't done so that you can then repair and then move forward. There can be traumas, there can be triggers, there can be contributing factors that affect us and that then result in us maybe saying or doing something that we wish we hadn't done. But the important thing is that we own that we're honest with ourselves about that so that we can then take accountability, take responsibility, communicate that we're taking accountability, that we're taking responsibility, genuinely apologize for doing something that we wish we hadn't done, and then work on not repeating the same behavior or saying the same thing or doing the same thing in the future, and repairing and communicating about that fact with whoever is in our lives that we need to communicate about that to, and move forward. Again, being honest with ourselves about our wants, our needs, our desires, and our actions and the things that we have said and done is incredibly important so that we can then effectively communicate with other people about our wants, our needs, our desires, things that we wish we could see changed, or maybe the fact that we aren't proud of something that we did or something that we said, and we can own that and communicate that we are owning that to other people, apologize, repair, and move forward. So that was part one. being honest with yourself. And now we're going to move into part 2, which is being honest with the other people in your life. Are you being honest with the other people in your life? It's really important that you are honest with yourself about your wants, your needs, your desires, all of those things. And if you are doing that, and if you're working on doing that, great, that's phenomenal. Are you then taking the next step and being honest with the other people in your life about your wants, your needs, your desires, things that you would like to see changed, or about actions that maybe you're not proud of, or things that you've said that you would like to apologize for? Are you taking that next step and being honest with the other people in your life about those things? If you are not being honest with the other people in your life about all of those things, then it is very possible and probably highly likely that there are people in your life, particularly your spouse, your partner, maybe your children, maybe your parents, others in your life, who think that they are giving you what you want, what you need, what you desire, based upon the information that you've given them. But if you've given them incomplete or inaccurate information, then they might not be giving you what you want, what you need, and what you desire, not because they don't want to do that, but because they just don't know the accurate answers to what your wants, your needs, your desires are. If you've given somebody inaccurate or incomplete information about what you want, what you need, what you desire, what you would like to see changed, then how is it possible for them to accurately give you what you want, what you need, what you desire, or to change what you would like to see changed? It's not possible because they don't have the correct or accurate information in order to be able to do that. So if you're not happy about what you're getting from somebody else in your life, then I would invite you to ask yourself the question of whether or not you've been honest with them about what you want and what you need from them, and actually given them the opportunity to give you what you want and what you need. Or if you are upset that they're not giving you what you want or what you need, but you haven't actually given them the information or the tools to be able to do that. I think it's incredibly important that you are honest with the other people in your life so that you can determine if they're able to give you what you want, what you need, what you desire, or to change what you would like to see changed, right? It's important for you to be honest with them so that you can then determine whether or not you're having a misunderstanding or a disagreement. If you run into a potential rough patch where you're not getting what you want, you're not getting what you need, or something is not changing that you would like to see changed. What do I mean by this? I have another video that I made about gift giving where I discuss the advice that an advice columnist gave to somebody who wrote in about her boyfriend and gifts. And if you would like to look at the whole video, you can take a look. I'll link it here. But the long and short of that video is somebody wrote in, and she wrote in and she said that she's been with her boyfriend for 3 years. And when it comes to gifts, she gets him things that he would like. He likes guitars, so she bought him a guitar. He is really interested in playing the guitar, so she got him some guitar lessons. However, he gets her gifts for things that he would like for her to be interested in, but not for things that she is actually interested in. So the way this played out in this particular scenario is that he very much likes snorkeling. So he got her a gift to go snorkeling with him. They went snorkeling. She subsequently had a panic attack, determined she didn't like snorkeling. Okay. However, she then told him, okay, hey, I really like knitting and crocheting and yarn. So in the future, maybe an idea for a gift for me could be that you get me some yarn or some knitting needles or something that would fall in line with her interests. And the thing is that she actively told her partner that. She was like, hey, I'm interested in these things, in the future for gifts, maybe you could get me something along these lines. And she went one step further and she said, oh, hey, the ladies at this particular knitting shop, they know what I like. So if you want to go in there and ask them about some ideas, that's where you can go. So this was an example of someone who wasn't happy with the gifts that her boyfriend was getting her. And she had a conversation with him and she told him, okay, hey, these are some things that I would like. And this was after he'd asked her, okay, well, what would you like? And she said, I like knitting, I like yarn, I like crocheting. You can go down to the shop and talk to the ladies. They know what I like. And then he didn't get her what she wanted. He didn't get her knitting needles, crocheting, yarn. He didn't do that. But I explain all of this to say that I think it's incredibly important to give someone the opportunity to listen to you and to then determine if you're having a misunderstanding or if you're having a disagreement. So what do I mean by misunderstanding and disagreement? In this situation, if you are honest about what your wants and what your needs are, so the girlfriend told her boyfriend, hey, I like knitting, I like crocheting, and oh, by the way, you can go to this particular place and get me something that I would like as a gift. She accurately, clearly communicated what her want and what her need or her desire was in terms of gifts from her boyfriend. She clearly stated, this is what I like, this is where you can go get it for me, and you can talk to these people who work there if you are just lost and overwhelmed, and they will help you pick something out that I would like. She provided him with information and was very clear about her wants and her desires. He then did not listen. However, because she was very clear about her wants and her needs and her desires, we can then work out that this wasn't, or likely wasn't, a misunderstanding, right? She was very clear in her communication about what she wanted and what she needed. It just appears that he did not listen to her. So we can then work out that this wasn't necessarily, from the information that we have and that was provided in the advice column, a misunderstanding. It seems like it was more along the lines of a disagreement. And the reason that I am coming to that conclusion is because she was clear in expressing her wants, her needs, her desires to her boyfriend. And to his credit, he did ask her what she wanted in terms of gifts. However, he then did not, at least it appears, listen to her answers and then go out and get her the gifts that she said that she wanted. So it appears like they are having a disagreement wherein he wants her to be interested in certain things like snorkeling and guitar lessons, but she is not interested in those things. And she has told him she is not interested in those things, and he does not appear to be listening to her. So it looks like they're having a disagreement about not just the gifts, but potentially about bigger issues in their relationship, right? If somebody wants to be in a relationship with someone who listens to them, who is thoughtful in their words and their gestures and their gifts, and who recognizes what their partner likes, what their partner wants, and then works to give that to their partner, again, after their partner has effectively communicated what those things are. If somebody is just not listening to that, then that begs the question of, are you actually aligned in what you are looking for in a relationship and in a partner, right? Because there was clear, effective communication about wants and needs and desires, and then the subsequent actions did not indicate that communication or those wants and needs and desires were taken into account, we can then move forward with the assumption that they're having a disagreement and that they are perhaps misaligned, and they might want to examine some bigger questions about their relationship. So if you're honest and clear in your communication with someone about your wants and your needs and your desires, then you can work to determine if you're having a misunderstanding or if you're having a disagreement. You want to make sure you ask yourself, was my communication unclear? Did I explicitly say what I wanted? Did the person I was talking to get confused? Did they seem like they didn't understand what I was saying? Did they misunderstand what I was saying? All of these are questions that you can ask when you are in communication with someone about your wants and your needs and your desires in order to clarify that they actually understood what you were saying, and also for you to make sure you actually understood what they are saying, because communication is a two-way street. We have to listen to each other, and we have to affirmatively work to make sure that we are understanding what somebody else is communicating to us, in addition to making sure that they are understanding what we are trying to communicate to them. But once we have done that, once we have determined that, okay, there weren't any misunderstandings, everybody was clear on their expectations or their wants and their needs and their desires, you've been honest with yourself so that you've then been honest with the other person that you're communicating to. If all of those things have taken place, then we can work to figure out if there's still friction, if that's because there's just a disagreement and maybe some sort of bigger misalignment, but we've done our part and done our work to ensure that we are honestly and effectively communicating our wants, our needs, our desires, and things that we would like to see changed. We also want to make sure that we are effectively and honestly communicating about maybe actions or things that we've said that we aren't proud of, and that we can then apologize for those, take accountability for those, work to repair after something like that might have happened. All of that, the successful repair, the successful taking of accountability and taking responsibility, all of these things are based upon the notion that we've been honest with ourselves and that we've then been honest with the other people in our lives. None of this works if we aren't honest, right? Somebody might be giving you what they think you want, but it's not what you want, but you haven't told them what you actually want. So how are they supposed to give you what you really want if they don't know what that is? How are you supposed to apologize for saying something that was out of pocket or taking something too far if you are not being honest with yourself that that actually was out of pocket or that you did take something too far? If you're trying to justify to yourself, oh, I said that because, that may be true. Maybe you did say that because you were triggered or in response to what somebody else said or did. All of that can be true, but then it's on us to take ownership and accountability for our part in things, for making sure that we are doing what we need to do to effectively communicate our wants, our needs, our desires, things that we would like to see changed, apologize for things that we aren't proud of or mistakes that we've made, all of those things. So I hope this was helpful. It was a lot. Please let me know in the comments if you've got questions about anything that I said, right? Part 1 was being honest with yourself. Part 2 was being honest with other people. If I said anything and you were like, ooh, hey, I like to tease more out of that, or I have a particular question about that thing, please let me know in the comments. I am also available for one-on-one coaching. Again, you can let me know in the comments if you're interested in that, and then we can talk more offline. But I hope this was helpful, and I wish you more effective, successful communication in your future.